Do you think 11 is just a simple number? No, my friend. Behind the number 11, when it comes to aircraft carriers for America, there's an unwritten rule and a hidden war scenario that might just give you goosebumps. Just think about it. Exactly 11. Not one less, not one more. We're talking about 11 moving steel fortresses. Each one, it effectively functions as a mobile airbase on the water, with thousands of crew members, dozens of fighter jets and bombers, and ultimately radar and missile systems that are always ready to change the entire map of a region at any moment. But the story gets serious when you realize that right now, one of these 11 atomic giants is stationed right next to us in the Middle East. And what's even scarier is that sometimes a nuclear giant now sits in the Middle East. In this video, we're going to explore together exactly why the number 11 is a critical matter of life and death for the Pentagon. Why, if even one of these massive carriers is lost, the entire strategic structure of the US military could face a total collapse. And most importantly, with the deployment of a second nuclear carrier toward the region near Iran, exactly what major events are we on the very verge of witnessing right now? Ever since wars moved to the skies, aircraft carriers, alongside airplanes, have become the right hand of the world's major militaries. But it's interesting to know that in total only 11 have ever been built. Since aerial warfare began, aircraft carriers have become vital military assets. Only 11 nations possess them. China with 3 and India, the UK and Japan, each with 2, are expanding their fleets. Russia, France, Spain and Thailand also operate them. But the United States, with its fleet of 11 active aircraft carriers, has single-handedly outclassed all of them. But the story isn't just about the number of carriers. There is a hidden point right here. Among all these countries, only the United States and France currently have nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. Do you know what that means? It means that US and French nuclear carriers can operate for months without refueling. It is these same 11 massive aircraft carriers that provide the essential capability for the United States to maintain a strategic presence simultaneously in the Persian Gulf and the vast waters of the oceans. They dominate the oceans as a nightmare for any enemy. These 11 carriers allow the US to be present in the Persian Gulf, the Indian Ocean, and the South China Sea simultaneously, deploying advanced air bases anywhere within hours. Now, let's examine these 11 monsters that... First of all, let's start our journey with the legendary grandfather of these carriers, the USS Nimitz. This vessel is the oldest and most iconic nuclear-powered aircraft carrier operated by the United States Navy. This massive 333-meter steel giant has been serving as a cornerstone of maritime security since its commissioning in 1975, continuing its impressive legacy right up to the present day across the globe. The world's oceans, patrolling the waters with its nuclear reactor without needing to refuel. Its crew consists of about 3,200 people, and in addition, nearly 2,480 air personnel are added to that. So the total operational team of this carrier is close to 5,600 people at any given time. The Nimitz is truly a piece of American military history, from its role in Operation Desert Storm in 1990, starting from the major military conflicts with Iraq, all the way up to as recently as the year 2020, when it strategically drew a firm line for the Chinese in the South China Sea and helped to maintain the formidable US military presence throughout the Indo-Pacific region. Overall, this massive aircraft carrier is truly one of the main essential pillars of the US Navy's global power. The second carrier we will discuss today is the Dwight D. Eisenhower, which has been in active service since 1977. This is the second aircraft carrier of the Nimitz class. Interestingly, it is the very first aircraft carrier to be named after a specific president. The Eisenhower is practically a floating small city with about 5 Since 1977, this Nimitz-class ship was the first carrier named for a president, housing 5,577 crew and twin reactors. Ike is a game changer. That means whenever things get chaotic anywhere in the world, Eisenhower is usually the first carrier that's considered for deployment. That means whenever things get chaotic anywhere in the world, Eisenhower is usually the first carrier considered for deployment. Let's not forget that during the Gulf War, this very carrier's presence tipped the regional power balance for the United States. Right now, this carrier is the flagship of Strike Group 2, meaning it's guarded by destroyers and submarines. In short, the deployment of Eisenhower to third carrier, Carl Vinson, which since 1900, each carrier signals major political and military intent. The third, Carl Vinson, serving since '82, matches the other's specs, 333 meters with a crew of 5,600. But the Vinson stands out because what distinguishes it in American military history is a strange event that happened in 2011. After Osama bin Laden was killed, his body was brought onto the deck of this very carrier, and from here, it was buried at sea. This very incident has given the carrier a kind of symbolic fame. Over the years, the Vinson has been a constant presence in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it also participated in operations such as Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom in Afghanistan. In short, wherever there is talk of a special and highly strategic mission, the Vinson is always there. The fourth carrier is the Theodore Roosevelt, which first entered active service back in 1986. Within the U.S. Navy, they have given this massive carrier an interesting nickname, the Big Stick. This unique name comes from one of Roosevelt's most famous proverbs, which said, "Speak softly, but carry a big stick." Carry a big stick. Like the rest of its class, this carrier is 333 meters long and is powered by 2 nuclear reactors. The USS Theodore Roosevelt first successfully demonstrated its combat operational power during the Gulf War in 1991. Currently, this formidable carrier is the flagship of the new strike group and is considered a massive floating city with 5,500 personnel. What exactly makes Roosevelt, huge nuclear Roosevelt, which essentially means that it is a complex combination of 7 entirely different types of specialized warplanes. There are 11 air squadrons stationed on its deck. That means a combination of 70 fighter jets, helicopters, and reconnaissance planes, which allows this carrier to handle any complex mission on its own, from espionage to heavy attacks. Well, I know which carriers you're waiting for. I'll reveal one of them to you right now. But let's get to the carrier that these days. This vessel is a member of the Nimitz class, which has been in active operation since 1989. But why exactly is its presence in this specific region considered so tense? It is because this was the very first aircraft carrier to be equipped with the advanced 5th generation F-35 Lightning II fighter jets. That means it possesses the most sophisticated flight system that the United States has. Right now, this massive carrier is deployed on a critical mission to help maintain America's strategic balance of power in our region. Interestingly, despite its tough appearance, the Lincoln also has major humanitarian missions on its record, such as helping the victims of the tsunami in Indonesia. Of course, it has also played a very important role in sensitive operations like Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom. From tsunami relief to major wars, this 5,500 crew carrier's primary role is maintaining regional power. Stretching all the way from the Persian Gulf to the vast Pacific Ocean, the strategic presence of the USS Abraham Lincoln near Iran's borders sends exactly the clear message that Washington is seeking: full readiness for any unexpected scenario. The 6th massive aircraft carrier on our list is the George Washington, which first entered active service back in 1992. This particular carrier has a fundamental and unique difference from its other siblings in the fleet. The USS George Washington is the very first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in American history to be permanently stationed not on the United States mainland, but at the Yokosuka base in Japan. so that Washington's watchful eye is always fixed on the ocean. Washington is the first U.S. nuclear carrier stationed at Japan's Yokosuka base, keeping watch over the Pacific. Beyond its military role, it provided vital aid as a floating relief station after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. It eventually turned into this. So, in a significant way, Washington is considered America's primary nuclear ambassador throughout the Pacific Ocean. The seventh carrier is the USS John C. Stennis, which was named in honor of Senator John Stennis, and it was officially launched in the year 1995. This carrier, too, with a crew of about 6,020 personnel, is another one of America's permanent strategic assets. This ship counters regional threats. The Truman, active since 1998, honors the 33rd president. In 2006, it spent 8 months leading Mediterranean operations. Airstrikes against ISIS, and since 2014, it has served as the flagship of Strike Group 8. With its same crew of 5,500, Truman proved that aircraft carriers are not just for classic wars. They can also play a decisive role in modern battles. The ninth carrier bears the name of a controversial figure, the USS Ronald Reagan. This aircraft carrier officially entered service in 2003, and after replacing the George Washington in 2015, it is now permanently stationed outside of U.S. borders at the naval base in Yokosuka, Japan. In fact, the U.S. sent the Reagan there to keep a very close eye on the ongoing activities of both China and North Korea. This carrier, with its 5,000 crew members, is a key part of the fleet. Ronald Reagan. And now, it serves as the flagship of Strike Group 5. Since that time, it has been active in deterrence missions, joint exercises with international allies, and humanitarian assistance. Now we come to the 10th and final member of the Nimitz family, the USS George H.W. Bush. This carrier, which entered service in 2009, is somewhat more advanced. The George H.W. Bush, rising to a height equivalent to a 16-story building and manned by a crew of 5,000 personnel, is powered by 2 nuclear reactors that only require refueling once every 25 years. In other words, it practically possesses a nearly inexhaustible source of power. In terms of its defensive capabilities, the Bush is equipped with short-range defensive missiles and the advanced phalanx system, the same automated guns that act like a protective defensive shield. These systems are designed to pulverize any incoming threat that dares to come near the carrier. But here is a very hot political point. Some time ago, the media speculated that Bush might be deployed to the Middle East to put pressure on Iran. After anti-ISIS service, rumors of a deployment against Iran proved false. The Pentagon ultimately decided to send the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier instead, primarily because the Ford was in a much better operational position and could reach the Mediterranean significantly faster. And now we finally come to the real beast of the 21st century, the mighty Gerald Ford. This massive carrier is not just a standard military vessel, but a true showcase of the absolute future of American naval warfare. The Ford, which in the year, friends, by the Ford has two extremely powerful nuclear reactors that require no refueling at all for its full 50-year lifespan. That means the energy it produces could supply electricity for a city of 100,000 people. But the real magic of Ford is on its deck, where the launch system, the Ford carrier, or what is commonly known as EMALS, has now replaced the old steam systems. What exactly does this mean? It means that the USS Ford can carry out as many as 160 flight missions, or sorties, in a single day and night, while previous carriers would typically max out at 120 before reaching their limit. By the term sortie, we mean every time an aircraft takes off from the carrier's deck, completes its mission, and returns. This operational difference is quite significant indeed. This means a more rapid tempo of attack and constant air pressure on the enemy, without the carrier becoming overly exhausted. This means a faster tempo of attack and constant air pressure on the enemy, without the carrier getting worn out. Now, imagine this 100,000-ton giant has been deployed as the second aircraft carrier to the Middle East. The presence of the Ford is a clear political message. America still wants to be the main player on the seas. Now the main question is this military deployment just a show of force? Is it just a show of power, or are we really entering a serious and dangerous phase? Let's be honest and realistic. When America sends two aircraft carriers to a region simultaneously, is this just a show of power or a dangerous new phase? When America sends two aircraft carriers simultaneously, it ensures constant military pressure, allowing one to refuel while the other remains on station. Another one immediately takes its place. Not a moment's pause, not even a slight chance to catch a breath. But does this truly mean that war is inevitable? Some say this is just for the purpose of deterrence. In other words, Washington wants to show Tehran that all options are on the table. But history has taught us a very big lesson. Wars usually don't start with a major decision. They start with a small incident. The danger is always lurking right around the corner. It's right here. When the number of ships and planes increases, a small mistake or a miscalculation can throw everything out of control. Just a few days ago, the situation went from tense to dangerous. On February 13th, a stealth F-35 fighter jet, which had taken off from the deck of this very aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln, shot down an Iranian drone over the Arabian Sea. A few hours later, it was reported that fast boats belonging to the terrorist IRGC tried to seize an oil tanker flying the American flag in the Strait of Hormuz. This waterway is where the pulse of the world's oil beats and about 1/5 of the global supply passes through. This is no longer just simple patrolling. These fast boats have repeatedly approached American destroyers and forced them to change course. Now the question is, how long until someone loses patience? What will Trump risk for a deal? Comment your thoughts below. With these 11 promises covered, finally, answer this very important question as well. Why does the United States even need to have 11 aircraft carriers? Why is America so insistent on maintaining this number? The story is much more complicated than just a simple number. America quickly realized that an aircraft carrier is not just a ship. It's a complete air base, a hangar for planes, an ammunition depot, radar, a command center, and several thousand or they are undergoing training, because a carrier cannot always be on the battlefield. At any given moment, aircraft carriers are usually in one of these three operational states. Otherwise, they are engaged in training, because a carrier cannot always stay deployed on the active battlefield without periods of rest or maintenance. This strategic rotation allows at least 3 carriers to be fully ready for launch and operations at any given second. without putting excessive pressure on the crew or causing the ships to wear out prematurely. To put it simply, 1/3 of the fleet is on a mission, 1/3 is in maintenance, and 1/3 is in training. This means that while one carrier is being repaired in port, another one takes its place in the ocean, so that there is never a power vacuum left behind. Presently, the United States has 10 active Nimitz-class carriers and 1 Gerald Ford class carrier, while the 12th carrier, the John F. Kennedy, is already on the way. To prevent this, the United States operates 10 Nimitz-class and 1 Gerald Ford class carrier, with the John F. Kennedy currently under construction. This ensures an uninterrupted cycle of nuclear power active on the world map, a power allowing the United States to protect allies and interests simultaneously. While these actions are being carried out, the administration is simultaneously working to establish clear and firm boundaries for its geopolitical adversaries. By drawing these red lines, they are sending a signal to their enemies that certain behaviors will not be tolerated, creating a strategic framework designed to maintain stability while asserting a position of strength on the global stage, ensuring that every opponent understands the consequences of crossing those established limits.